water, under the willow, sits a lone ranger minding the willow. He and his wife once lived happily, planted a seed that grew through the reeds. Summers and winters, through snowy Decembers, sat by the water, close to the embers, missing out the lives that they once had before. I wouldn't leave you, I would hold you when the last day comes. What if you need me? Won't you hold me on the last day, our last day? Mr. and Mrs. dreamed of a willow, carving their names into the willow. If he had spoken, love would return, spoken inside, too soft to be heard.
I'd like to welcome you all here today. Today, we celebrate the life of an amazing man, my dear friend, John Charles, who had a spirit so bright, and I see you're all already enjoying the photos of him. He could light up a room. He had such presence, and he was always so wonderful at making his presence known. The first time I met him, he said very formally, "I'm John Charles." And I said, "Nice style. I'm going to call you John John." That didn't go as well. I eventually won. I can be very persuasive. So John Charles, this is for you. We love you. You're with us always. A wonderful man, a wonderful father, a wonderful husband, a wonderful friend, a spiritual creature, a gift to the earth and to all of us. I can't think of a better way to honor him than by the words of Roland B. Gisselhorn. John, in the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember you. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember you. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember you. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember you. in the rustling of leaves, and in the beauty of autumn. We remember you. In the beginning of the year, and when it ends, we remember you. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember you. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember you. When we have joys and we yearn to share, we remember you. As long as we live, for you are now part of us, as you have always been and always will be. We remember you. And now we'd like some words from Heidi. Heidi, do you feel called?
I just wanted to say a few things while I could still talk. How grateful I am for every one of you that is here with me today. And I know I'm not grieving alone. Some of you may find things out about our beloved John Charles that you didn't know today. I suggest you just roll with it. John Charles had many, 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 many sides. And he was a beautiful and amazing man. And to his beloved fireworks family, I forgot fireworks in the obituary. But it's okay, because Joe told me nobody else will. Nobody else is going to forget fireworks, right? So, and I don't think they would let me print blowing shit up. I think that's all I've got in me for now. Thank you again for being here today.
And now we will kindle the memorial flame.
At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us.
And now, Orrin King will share something very beautiful just for John with us.
Stabat mater dolorosa. Sorry. Juxta crucem lacrimosa
Dum pendebat filius, stabat mater dolorosa, juxta crucem lacrimosa, dum pendebat filius, dolorosa, lacrimosa, dum pendebat filius.
Thank you so much, Oren. That was Stabat Mater by Giovanni Battista Pergolesi. And now, a reading. This is The Prophet on Death by Khalil Gibran.
You would know the secret of death. But how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? The owl whose night-bound eyes are blind into the day cannot unveil the mystery of light. If you would indeed behold the spirit of death, open your heart wide unto the body of life. For life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. In the depth of your hopes and desires lies your silent knowledge of the beyond. And like seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. Trust the dreams, for in them is hidden the gate to eternity. Your fear of death is but the trembling of the shepherd when he stands before the king, whose hand is to be laid upon him in honor. Is the shepherd not joyful beneath his trembling, that he shall wear the mark of the king? Yet is he not more mindful of his trembling? For what is it to die but to stand naked in the wind and to melt in the sun? And what is it to cease breathing but to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered? Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. And when you have reached the mountain top, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then shall you truly dance.
Please join us in the words of the fire prayer. You have the you have the words in your programs, the words to the fire prayer. We are the eyes in the fire and the voices of the forest, the blood of the earth and the breath of the wind, the ghost in the sky and the whisper in the stone, the laughter in the rain. We are the hush of falling snow. We were born in the waters of the eternal sea, and so the sea will return when our time here is done. All life is eternal. All life is one. And now, if you will join us for Let It Be. Any Beatles fans in here? Anybody? All right. All right, so who's going to start us off? Who's got the first note? No? No takers? All right. Julie? All right. Find myself. Speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me. Speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. And when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer, let it be. For though they may be parted, there will be an answer, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. There will be an answer, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. And when the night is coming, there is still light that shines on me. Shine till tomorrow, let it be. And now I'd like to call Lauren Wright, Fred Sands, and Greg Anderson to give us some reflections about John. Please join us.
Well, John Charles Galleni I'm going to miss you, man. My name's Lauren Wright. I'm a cousin of John's. We're good Italian cousins. And it's fitting we're here in the Unitarian Universalist Church. When I think of John and I think of UUs, I think of openness, flexibility, acceptance, magnanimous actions, and that was John Charles. I think best for me to describe him would be to describe my, in a way, last interaction with him this past fall up at our lake house. He was making puttanesca. You ever have puttanesca with John? It was his favorite. It's an Italian dish, and you can put all sorts of different ingredients to it, and that was kind of John Charles. We're in the kitchen yakking away, and he says, well, I think I'll put in a little of this. And he goes, I don't know if I've used this before, and in it went. Well, the whole point being is that after all the mix of everything and what a life he had, I mean, I look out and I see all these different hats that you're all wearing. There's such a unique group of people here, is my sense, and that was his ability to meet people and connect with them. It was just some of it, I don't know if it was innate, I think, more than an actual plan that he had, but he had this set of abilities, and I love that about him. I loved it. And that was what I loved about his puttanesca, was this ability to just throw it all together, and guess what? It turned out real well. We just devoured that puttanesca. Much like I feel in my interaction with him that I devoured him, in the sense of really that energy was special. And I'm glad that I had the opportunity to have interactions with John Charles. So I'm going to miss you, man. And I know you're with me and with everyone here. Blessed be.
I'll start off by saying BLS 131. I had John as a partner for about 10 or 11 months. I've been in EMS since 1989. And John Charles was the best partner that I'd ever had. Those last 10 months that I had John, he uplifted me, and I was in a very low point in my EMS career, and he brought me back up. The meals that we shared, the conversations that we had, the times we sat by the port 11:30, 12 o'clock at night on our iPhones or on our phones, not talking, just sharing the time with each other, is something that I'll always remember. I had our last meal with John about 2 months ago at Ollie's Waffle Shop in Alameda. We didn't say a whole lot. We just kind of sat and looked at each other and messed around on our phones. But it was a very special time for me. The 10 months that I was with John, I never felt uncomfortable. I always felt he had my back. John was a very special guy. He was a very special guy. And I'll miss him. I'm sure his family will miss him, and the EMS community will miss him. and the people of Oakland, of Alameda County, will miss him because he was a wonderful EMS provider.
So I met John almost 30 years ago. We worked together in a restaurant called Venezia. It's a great community of people, great friends, late nights after work, enjoying a puttanesca or, whatever we were allowed to have on the menu. Puttanesca was one of our favorites. We often topped it with goat cheese, and it was enjoyed by many. He was John Charles, he was Juan Carlos, he was Giancarlo, he was JC. He had many names and many people that loved him. The enthusiasm that you all talked about was definitely infectious, and just joy of life, joie de vivre. One day we were talking with our chef about food. Obviously, we loved oysters. We had missed the opportunity to have what was called an oyster bliss, and that's a gathering that was put out by a wine merchant where you get to eat lots of oysters and have some nice wine. So our chef talked to John and I, and he put together a late night oyster bliss at Venezia. So after we finished a Saturday night, the chef bought maybe 2 50-pound bags of oysters, and we shucked them and we laid them out, and we had mignonette, and we sang Beatles. A couple of our Venezia family were guitar players, and we sang and enjoyed oysters late into the night until it was the next morning. We saw the sun come up. That was when we met, when we were in our 20s and life was shiny and new, and John and I were very close. We enjoyed each other's company. I may make it through here without crying, but I might not. I loved his candor. He was always very willing to share his challenges in life, his weaknesses, but also his strengths, his enthusiasm for so many different things. Whether it was going to Burning Man and being a Black Rock Ranger and trading the condensed milk, because that was the currency in Black Rock. Nobody had condensed milk, so he would bring little cans, and that was what was traded for what was needed. I love that story. But also him being a Black Rock Ranger was the first of him being able to take care of people and organize things, and he was so good at those things. When I was about 28, my daughter came into the world, Rachel Rose, and I was having a difficult housing situation. John knew that my daughter was coming, and he told his mother, Susan, about the fact that I didn't have a place to live, and I was going to be a father. And Susan, she was, what was going to happen? What's he going to do? What? So Susan offered me a room in her home, and a crib in the little sewing room off to the side for my daughter, Rachel. And I got to meet John's mom, John's brother, who's also no longer with us. A double loss for the family. I'm very sorry for them. But she was there, and I got to be at family dinners with Drew and Andrea and John and Susan, sharing their love of food. And they welcomed me and Rachel, and I'm very thankful for that, for the generosity of that family. John did love fireworks, as many of you know. My wife Felicia and I got to go see him at one of his shows in Pleasant Hill, where he was setting off all kinds of fireworks. And he was in his element and loving every minute of it, with his big fire suit on, and always had as much of a light as he had extra light when he was talking about his fireworks, telling me stories about going to Mexico, and they have fireworks celebrations that are pretty incredible as well. But at the end of the day, as you all have said before me, and I'm sure we'll hear again, John was a loving man, and he openly embraced whoever was in need of a hug, looked after people. I'm looking at his picture here on the program. I will also miss you, John. Love you very much. And know that he'll be enjoying oysters in the sky. Thank you.
And now let us observe a moment of silence for John Charles. And now we invite the community to come and share about John. Please come up if you feel so led to share.
Hello, everybody. My name is Steve Albright, and I had the honor of being JC's EMT instructor from Bay Area Training Academy. I got to see him make that transition in his life to doing something that he absolutely loved, to doing something that was very meaningful, not only for him, but for his community as well. I noticed as soon as I met John, and through the program and afterwards when I got to work with him, he had such a light in his eyes, and it was only second to the light in his heart. You could tell that his passion was infectious, and he lived to uplift others, and it meant a great deal to him to be able to serve others in his community. Something really unique about, something really unique about John. I always hope my students will stay in touch with me afterwards because it's an accelerated program. But he did. He always reached out and he emailed me and kept me updated about how he was doing. And I was fortunate to see him around when he was working at WestMed and a couple times while he was working at Falk. But something really unique about him, after students pass the national the national exam to become an EMT, and they start working in the community, and then they contact me again. They often readdress me formally as Instructor Albright or something like that, and I'm like, no, we're peers now. Okay, we're peers now. You don't need to, you can call me Steve, whatever, several names I won't mention right now. But he was, always insistent. He's like, no, I call you instructor. And in fact, one of the last text messages I got from him just a number of weeks ago addressed me as such, and he said in there, some people call you Steve, some people call you medic, some people call you whatever. He's like, but I'll always refer to you as instructor. He's like, because I hold you up high. And he held me in a level of reverence that, honestly, I probably don't deserve. But I want to let all of you guys know, and I want to let God and the community know, and JC know, that I hold him up high. And I have a great deal of reverence and honor for having been a part of JC's life. And he meant a great deal to me. And I just wanted to have said that. So, thank you.
How about now? All right, hey. So my name is Petra. I am a long-term friend of JC, and it is just so amazing to see so many people that he and I have had conversations about, that he's told stories about over the years. And it just, this is a crappy reason to be getting together, but I'm just so happy to meet and see so many people here that I know and that I'm just meeting. So anyway, this is a reading from the book of the life of John. He always appreciated a good story, right? In addition to everything else, he was a great storyteller. So here we go. I promise it's not too long. And this story is a slight amalgamation of a few instances of JC plus food. Need I say more? It tells the story, though, of why we loved him so well, without me standing here for hours regaling you of all the awesomeness that you're aware of about John. All the quotes I'm making are directly from our brother, uncle, lover, and friend. Cassoulet sounds so romantic, like some easy classic peasant food. How hard could it be to make? I had no idea. And the first time that JC told me, we're having cassoulet for dinner. I just heard duck confit, and I was there. I'm in, right? Who doesn't love a duck that's cooked and preserved in its own fat? Yum. Okay, back to the story. So John came down to our house. He let himself in. He gave us all big hugs. And then he took his boyfriend, Christopher, over there, that's my husband, to go grocery shopping. And I did not know what to expect, okay? No idea what cassoulet was. So they come back laden with groceries, plain and exotic, having visited Dittmer's, our favorite German butcher in Delhi in Los Altos. Highly recommend the place. Go there in pilgrimage for John. And then he said, and this is not an exact quote, but you'll get my drift, "Get the F out of my kitchen." It sounds like some of you guys have heard that too, right? So we exited our kitchen to give him space, even though it was technically our kitchen, right? We pay the mortgage. And over the next couple hours, as we got hungrier and hungrier, we discovered that cassoulet was a southern French peasant dish once made with leftovers, not wanting to be wasteful, right? You can't waste food when you don't have a lot of money. So for anybody who's made cassoulet, shepherd's pie, or any other sort of peasant dish from scratch, you know the first thing you have to do is make the leftovers, and that takes a lot of time. So you can imagine that, like, by the time that we were ready to eat, like, well, we were ready to eat far before, you know, the food was ready. But as the beans were cooking away, because it is a bean dish primarily, John Charles cooked up all kinds of sausage and was handing us tidbits to my family and to my dog Megan. And John quotes Megan, and I know that Kenna, you will understand this quote, "Sausage is very good for dogs." I think people have heard him say, yeah, I see Heidi nodding her head. So we all loved it. We loved the sausage. And as he was finished cooking, he added another one of his trademark phrases, "Dot with butter and serve with beef Wellington." Love that so much. Oh my God. Jumping forward to the end of this ambitious dinner that he made, John said another one of his trademark quotes, right? "I ate the whole thing. I'm feeling kind of lightheaded." So these phrases like "get the F out of my kitchen," "I'm kind of lightheaded," "dot with butter," shows us so much about John, his love of his friends and his love of showing his love through many things, including cooking, you know, as well as just being such a ardent lover of whoever he was in relationship with. Additionally, to his delicious meals, he had such a sharpened spear tip of wit. Like, he was just so fun to listen to, wasn't he? He was one of the smartest people I know. Such an amazing combination of intelligence and empathy. He always had time for others. He always had time to help. He was a born first responder, and I was so happy and proud of him as he came into his own as an EMT. I'm so sorry, sweetie. He's someone who made and makes life worth living, right? I'm just glad that we all have such amazing memories of him, and we can think about him and laugh the rest of our lives. I don't think that John Charles would want us to wallow in sadness today, even though it is inevitable. But he'd want us to find a way to be happy, to feed each other, to hug each other, to snuggle each other, to play board games, and to otherwise enjoy and fireworks. Yeah. He's now with us whenever we want him to be, as he has embarked upon his boat to the realm of the goddess. Blessed be John.
Hey there. My name is Alexis, and I met John. I don't really remember when. I'm thinking it was my late teens, early 20s. But we didn't really know each other that well, and we didn't get to know each other well until we worked together at Venezia. You will hear a lot of similar stories from us. I was at that oyster late night dinner. It was amazing. Venezia had an amazing puttanesca. It was not one of my favorites. I'm a paglia e fieno girl. But that's beside the point. After Venezia, we lost touch for a little while, but then we came back together for some really, really amazing years. And then we drifted apart again. So I've been missing John for a really long time. So I'm kind of still reeling, as I'm sure many of you are. But rather than wallow in the whys and wherefores, I just want to share the things that I will always treasure, remember, the experiences that I had with John and shared with a lot of other folks that I will never, ever forget. And along with John came the amazing blessing of his brother Drew, which anyway. So these things are special to me, working at Venezia. It really was an amazing place. If you never ate there, I'm sorry. We were a family. Cocktails at Spats, after shifts, sometimes between shifts. Shh, don't tell anyone. Making and sharing delicious food for dinner parties, tea parties, and barbecues. Halloween. Those were good times. Movie nights. Getting a front row seat to the 4th of July fireworks on the Municipal Pier in San Francisco. That was pretty amazing. And professional grade fireworks on a random Thursday night in the middle of the street in Oakland. You did not hear that from me. As far as I'm concerned, they were all legal. And equally as amazing. Collecting things. Those collections of things. And tangentially, Drew's collection, primarily Pyrex and Christmas decorations. Always new hobbies, endless new hobbies, which he devoured and dove into with gusto and passion. Nothing was frivolous. I would get random phone calls during the day, during the week, when he was on a Comcast shift in between calls, probably sitting in his truck. Just call me up, just to say hi, just to shoot the shit. The way he would affectionately say my name, Lexi. I would give anything to hear that again. So those are all things, and I'm sure there's more. I will never forget, always treasure. And I want to leave you with a song. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rain fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again,
May God hold you. May God hold you in the palm of her hand.
I think someone left their notes up here. All right. So, I'd assume none of you have the experience of being John's kid. So, I'm just going to do us all the honor and share some of my favorite moments. He loved teaching me to cook, and like anything involving us cooking together, he would always like say, "Oh, we're going to cook this," and we did. He taught me to cook a lot of things. He taught me to cook rigatoni because of a stupid internet joke, where it said to make rigatoni on May 1st of 2022. And he taught me to make rigatoni, and we made rigatoni on May 1st of 2022. He really loved to cook, as I already stated. He loved video games. That was something that he loved. He had this gaming computer. It was honestly really cool. And he would play just anything. He would play Doom. He would play Left 4 Dead. Anything that involved killing zombies or demons, he just adored. And he'd find the oddest, most obscure games to play. And I'd watch him play sometimes. And we just sat and I watched him kill things. It was a nice bonding experience. But finally, I have a very short story to tell just to end it all off. And I will never let him forget this. I never let him forget this when he was alive. I will never let him forget this wherever he is, up in the clouds, down in the brimstone, wherever. He made me cry when I was 8 because I hadn't seen him. We went to Battlestar regularly. Battlestar was like a weekly, bi-weekly thing or something. I don't know. But I hadn't seen him in a while. And so obviously, my little 8-year-old brain thought he was dead. And so he showed up one Battlestar, and I saw him, and I hugged him, and I cried. I was like, I thought you were dead. And I will never let him forget that he made me cry when I was 8. If I wasn't myself today, JC would kill me. So I'm going to try to hold it together. I'm Amanda. I worked at West Med. I still do with JC. And JC was one of the very first people I met there. And he was one of the very first people. I heard him before I saw him. And I said, oh, it's coming towards me. I'm going to meet someone new. And he comes in and he gives me a big hug. He said, hi, I'm JC. And I said, hi, JC, I'm Amanda. And he goes, so you're the new dispatcher. You're going to tell me what to do. I said, I'll try. And from that moment on, JC was somebody who I could come to, I could confide in. He was someone who listened to you. He listened to your words, but he knew what you meant. And what I mean by that is, somebody so sad and broken inside can smile and say they love you, they're having a great day, but JC knows when something isn't right. And JC would call me, and he'd call me, and I'd go through little episodes, and I wouldn't answer the phone, and he'd leave me a voicemail, and I still have a couple. He says, Amanda, you call me right now, I know something's not right. Just want to make sure you're okay.
I'd always call him back. And I have a voicemail from the second week of work at WestMed. I had a really bad day. Somebody made me cry. They were mean to me. And JC just would not stand for it. And he left me a 3-minute voicemail that I listened to all the time before he passed. Because the words in that voicemail were encouraging, loving, genuine. And quite frankly, sometimes I don't feel like I am those things. And JC always made me feel loved. And sharing 24-hour shifts with JC and his baby sister, Teresa, we ran amok in that place. We had so much fun. I took a look at his license plate. I said, "You play with fire?" He said, "Oh yeah, I'll bring it one day." One day, 2 o'clock in the morning, he must have got off work with you. Around 11:30, 12 o'clock, calls me. He said, "I'm on my way to WestMed and I've got fire." And I said, "JC, I'm putting everything on hold. I'll call me when you're outside." And he knew that I never lit a lantern before. And he brought 2, one for him, one for me. And we wrote things that we wanted to write on them, and we released them together. And we watched them until they burnt out. And I have it on video. Teresa took the video, thank you. And I have that memory with JC. JC was not everyone's cup of tea, but everybody drank out of it, and whether they wanted to or not. In the last conversation I had with JC, I was sitting on the coastal line of the Azore Islands, and it's about an 8-hour difference, and it was so late for him. But he hadn't talked to me, and I told him where I was. And I said, "I want you to bring your wife and daughter here. It's so beautiful. I'd love to bring you guys here. And we're going to go, Heidi. And we're going to go, Cora. We're going to go." Teresa and I promised JC we'd take a trip to Indiana together to see her accomplishments. And because fireworks are legal in Indiana, guess who's going to go pop off some in Indiana next month? Just for JC. I couldn't find any for today. But he was loved. He was genuine. He'd give you the shirt off his back and the socks and shoes off his feet. And you don't meet a lot of people like that you know are genuine, that don't expect anything from you other than love and acceptance. So if it's one thing that I can ask for all of you here today, it's just be kind to each other, to strangers, a smile, because I swear to God, I could have the worst day ever, but I hear JC coming down the hallway. What are we eating? What are we watching? Let's do this. He was someone who made me very happy and made me feel loved because I didn't have a dad like JC. He stepped into that role. And your father is one great man, and he will never be forgotten. I promise you that. Thank you.
My name is Jim Howe. This is my daughter, Danae. Everything you heard about fireworks, it's me. John and I met about 25 years ago doing an A's show, and he was wondering if he could, get on with a crew. So we exchanged phone numbers, and ever since then, every show I have done, John has done. It got to the point where, John, go do another show. Do something with someone else. No, I want to stay with you. But everything that everyone has said about John, times it by 10. I told Heidi I don't know how long I'd be able to last up here. Good fireworks story. When we were doing, normally did Pleasant Hill, all of a sudden he'd just stop. And he goes, "I'll be back." He disappears. He comes back with about $50 worth of popsicles. And he goes, you guys got about 5 minutes to eat them before they all melt. So we're all sitting around with melting popsicles with a brain freeze going on. Because it's like it's 95 degrees out and you have to, munch them, eat them up. Every time we had a show, about a month before, John would either text me, email me, or call me about the show. What's going on? How's it going? Is it still on? Is it, he wants to do it now. And that's just the way John was. He was forever forgiving. He was forever a friend. As I say, what everybody has said so far, times it by 10, and that's John. I can't go on.
So I first met John at the Municipal Pier doing fireworks. I was 18 for many, many years. Because you had to be 18 to do fireworks. You could build them, but you couldn't load them unless you were that age. And I remember he would ask me sometimes, he's like, so how old are you? I said, I'm 18, John. He's like, well, no, how old are you really? I said, well, I'm 18. So he knew I was 18 for many years. And I have many, many stories. I remember going to his place in Oakland, and it's definitely John. It's you'd walk in and it was his entire personality just blown up in a room. I didn't realize it, but I've known him for 23 years. And that's actually a really long time. He helped me through a lot of things that many people don't realize, especially during some years of my life that were very, very hard. And he was there for me even after I went through my own hospitalization, and they brought me back. I'm a survivor of a 1% chance of coming back. And he gave me a hug, and he's like, well, thank God, because they probably would have kicked you out upstairs. That's why you're still here. He'd give me hugs all the time. And I actually didn't find out that this is my dad, by the way, for a very long time. And when I found out, because of 23andMe, I was amazed. And I remember when I got to tell John, and he's like, well, of course he is. He always was. Because he remembers us doing fireworks together, and he just never assumed anything different. And he's like, I'm just surprised you didn't know. And I was like, well, I knew in my heart, I just didn't know it was actually genetic. So I will never forget John. I'll never forget his horror films that he knew I couldn't stand. I am not a horror film person. And I don't remember to this day how old I was when I went to the house, and he wanted to play one, and he knew I couldn't deal with it, so he found something else, and I don't remember what it was now, and it was ancient, and it was long, and I'll be honest, it was horrible, and he says, probably this is the most horrible film you're ever going to watch in your life, but you have to see it once. And it's Puttanesca. He made it numerous times, and it was amazing. Along with his avocado on his salad. That man loved avocado. So I will always remember him. I was shocked when I found out. Dad couldn't actually text me. He just said, please read an email. And I'll be honest, when I read that email, it was the last thing I expected. The very last. This really sucks. He was a great man. Who did great hugs and was there for everybody. It's not going to be the same without him. It's really not.
Thank you.
I didn't know what to expect when I showed up today, but I knew it would be really crowded. My name is Kenna. I am John's first wife. We met in 1997 at a Burning Man fundraiser. I've already reminded a few of you, yes, I was naked when we met. He was charming, he was sweet, he was funny. Haven't heard a lot of you say a lot about some complications in his life. He had a very dysfunctional family. He survived addiction. When I met him, he had been 2 years sober and clean. And I didn't realize how much of a complication that would become. I loved him very much. We were married for 9 years, 11 years, apologies. We were together for 14, separated for those last 2. When I found out that he had passed away, like just this suddenness, I was shocked. I was so shocked. I was like, he didn't blow himself up from fireworks? So you all know this, right? You're like, ah. Turns out he was a safety man. It's true. The reason I'm up here is even now, even after years of being apart, I still loved him for those things that made him really special. Yes, the cooking especially was amazing. Last week I made a tomato confit that he had taught me to make. And it's just half slices of Roma tomatoes covered in olive oil and some herbs and roasted until soft. And you can use that as sandwich filling, use it on pasta, it's fabulous. His duck confit was pretty damn good too. We had a tumultuous marriage. We were up and down a lot. In addition to addiction, he had some mental health issues that were very, very hard to overcome. I separated hoping that he could get some help, and I know that that was a really hard time for both of us. It was a very low point for both of us. So fast forward, I'm celebrating my 50th birthday party in Alameda, and a friend of mine comes up to me and says, "Did you know that John got remarried and to a woman named Heidi?" And I was like, oh, really? And I was actually shocked. And I was like, wow, that's really surprising, because Heidi was a friend of mine. And I didn't know she was no longer married to her first husband. It took me a while to really, I did a little snooping. I found out they were, and I frankly was so happy for them. Honestly, I am so glad you found each other. And I'm so happy that his last few years were with you, Heidi. I can't imagine a better partner for him, actually. So I wanted to come up here and just say, you complicated son of a bitch. I hope you're at peace now. You had a lot of demons, and it was really hard. And I wanted to say one more thing, that when I learned that he was an EMT, it also was like, wow, the puzzle pieces are coming together in his life. I mean, fuck, finally. Is it okay to curse in church? So I'm glad he must have found what he was looking for. He must have found everything, and he must have realized he found it all, and there was nothing left. That's all I can think, because there's no fucking way, I did it again, sorry, that he had planned this. I think he's left an indelible mark on our lives. So beautiful to see all your faces here.
My name is Tess, and I am the Admiral of the aforementioned Battlestar. And I'd like to register an official complaint. And many of you know what I'm going to say. John Charles broke rule number 1. And ladies and gentlemen, and other humans, what is rule number 1? It was a very simple rule. And that's the first thing Heidi said when she got into my car last week. Tess, John Charles broke rule number 1. We were both pissed. I met John Charles a long time ago. It's all fuzzy. He was kind of always there. His first Battlestar was a work party. And I really need to make sure that John Charles is lifted up for a major part of his life, and that is his tools. Tools. Dirty-minded people. He showed up at my house with a truck full of tools, including a sledgehammer and a chainsaw. And it was sexy as hell. He demolished, I don't even know how many structures that day, intentionally, and had a blast. He looked giddy. He walked around with big, heavy things, like, I'll destroy it. I was like, all right. And later on, I knew just how seriously this man took his tools. He is the only person I've ever met on the planet that took a Snoopy snow cone machine and connected a cordless DeWalt drill to it and made snow cones like there was nobody's business. Just churned those things out for dozens of kids at the Battlestar. They just kept lining up. He just kept pouring lice, syrup after syrup on just, I don't even know how many, we lost count. All the adults were eating it too because it was a power drill snow cone. So I don't know where to take my complaint after this. I hold a grudge, so I'll probably hold it close until I see him again. And I will remember you little shit. And I will remember always.
My name is Micah. I'm another one of John's Pyro family. First met him 24 and a half years ago in the late 90s, San Francisco Municipal Pier. And there would be, a good decade in there where I'd only see him once a year, one day, July 4th. And we didn't always do New Year's, Jim. Oh, no, of course, the Pyro Barbecue. My bad. I know, right? So the person I just exchanged with, he held up 2 fingers, and that's the only thing he did. That's how close this Pyro family is. And on that decade where we'd only see each other a couple times in a year, the second we were together, it was like it was yesterday. There was no gap. I still remember his favorite story to share with the new Pyro people when we'd get a rare new crew member, because 25 years, the 10 of us or so, most of us have been there for almost all of it, was the year we were working the Muni Pier, and this jogger somehow got past security, and it was the early 2000s, and it was totally a ditzy blonde. And she's got her little jogging outfit and her earbuds in, and she's running through the middle of the fireworks that we were laying. Because somehow she managed to get past the security guard at the end of the pier who was supposed to keep everybody out. And she just went through the pit, and we're all like watching her going, there's no way we're going to get her to stop. We can't even get her attention. And it's always his favorite story because we are so surprised that she didn't blow herself up running through the live fireworks hours before we're going to put it up in the air. One of my other favorite memories of John is the year he was memorializing one of his family members, and we arted up some 12-inch shells for her. And his presence when he was doing that was, well, you all know. Anyway, he'll be missed in about 6 months when we go to do it all again. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mike. I was John's next door neighbor for many years. Hi, Heidi. I was kind of a shy neighbor. I was social when I wanted to be social, but I was also sort of private. But John was just so, like, when I wanted companionship, he was right there and just so friendly and loving. And then when I didn't, he never judged me either way. He took care of the building, like the gardens in the building, the courtyards. He did all of the gardening. Like there were, homeless people living by the side of the encampment next to the building. He was always the first person to either help them out or, if they crossed the line, call the police or go back directly and talk to them. It was amazing. He invited me to movie nights. We were sort of in and out of being friends at different levels, but he just was always just, yeah, like people have said, there was just a light in his eyes. He'd walk into my room. He called me El Doctore. He learned early on that I had a PhD, and so he called me El Doctore for the whole 12 or 15 years that we lived next to each other. And he was just a sweet, lovely person. So I'll miss him greatly.
Oh, there's a lot of you. Coming up here goes against every instinct in my body. I don't do public speaking, but JC was a lot of things to me. He's a really close friend. Him and I were in the same academy at Falk. This is my first 911 job. Couldn't really relate to anyone else in the class other than JC. We were both kind of in the same age bracket. He's 30 years older than I am, but he was closer to the age to me than anyone else in the class. So every time he spoke, my ears perked up, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna listen to this guy. He probably knows what he's talking about. He's my first permanent partner at Falk. We worked in Fremont. If you're not familiar with the area, it's the slowest beat in the county. So we spent 12 hours a day, 4 days a week, sometimes 3 days a week, just sitting on our butts talking, mostly him talking. But I ate it up, though. He was just such an enigma to me. And what really sealed the deal was the first shift. After the shift, we're walking to our cars. He's walking to his Jeep. I'm like, what the heck is that? I see all these decals on his Jeep, and I never once asked him about it, but the more I spent time with John, I realized that's just who he is. He's just unique. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and everything that he does has intention behind it, and he is not afraid to show it. The one thing I'm thankful for, I don't have the best control of my temper, but every time he would just know. He was like some kind of service animal. He'd say, Kurt, you're boiling over, Kurt. And he told me that the anger in my heart is what's keeping me unhappy. And I really held that near and dear to my heart. And I always hear those words whenever I feel those feelings inside. I always hear John just telling me, just let it go, man. Just let it go. And sometimes he'd fix it with words. Other times he'd just offer me a Ziploc bag of cauliflower not even saying a word, and I would often take it the wrong way because I'm not in the best shape. I'm like, are you trying to tell me something? But I knew it was from the love of his heart, trying to take care of me. So I don't know what to say or how to say it, but he was more than just a friend to me. He was everything that I wanted in a dad. You know, he was like my dad at work. I can't relate with that anymore. You know, the best 7 months of my life when I heard he got hit, and he got in that car accident. I was like, I feel bad for the guy that hit him. But I was just like, he's gonna be fine. He's gonna be fine. He always will be in my mind. All right, thanks. Appreciate it.
Hey, I'm Gilly. Hello, Miss Heidi. It's good to see you. I met John in the 90s through my then boyfriend, Rip, who I'm still close friends with. And we spent every moment together. Like, I don't even remember going to work. I just remember hanging out with Rip and John and doing everything together. And then after Rip and I broke up, I had this horrible, boring, tedious job on Saturdays, working at a handbag outlet in West Berkeley. And John worked for Comcast, and he would be on duty, and I would be on duty. And both of us were in tedium, and he'd be between calls, so he would just come visit me every Saturday. And I think I worked there for like 10 years. I needed that stupid $125 a month check like nobody's business. And he just parked himself with me, and we would just get through these long days together. And he would tell me stories, and I went through a really, really dark time towards the end of that job. I was with a man who was a drug abuser and an abuser in general. And John was just this warmth next to me every Saturday. And I was drinking very heavily, just trying to get through what my life had become at that time. And one day I called John and told him I was 1 day sober. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. My boyfriend was in treatment, and he just said, why don't you come over tonight and let me take care of you? And he and Kenna took me in that night and made me a pallet with the dogs and fed me and loved me so hard, just loved me like nobody else could, like John could, right? With that warmth and that healing that he had, that he turned outward to all of us. And we were all just so lucky, so very lucky to be in the light and warmth of that love that he gave. And I'm still sober, and I'll remain sober, in part because of that little gift that he gave to me of love and just humor. And I just wanted to share that. They say that a museum burns down when we lose somebody. John's museum was a museum of the obscure. And Heidi and Cora, I just hope that you'll let me care for you in his honor, feed you, walk with you, and be part of your community now. I so regret not visiting before he was gone, but I really loved him, and he was love. Just thanks everyone for having him be part of your lives. And I know he was complicated, but my God, what a beautiful, warm person. And what a gift he was. Thanks everyone.
Hi, everybody. I'm Todd. I was old friends with John back in our junior college days, and we were pretty close back then. Him and my first wife, Shannon. We were a really, really tight trio of people for a while there. One day, I'd been thinking about wanting to go to this thing out in the desert called Burning Man, and I'd been hearing about it on Alex Bennett. He was talking about this crazy art festival out there, and John comes up to me one day and goes, Todd, my friend Joshua is he's planning on getting a group together, and we're going to go, and you want to come with us? And I said, hell yeah. I've been wanting to do this forever. all of the 2 years that I'd known about it. And back in those days, it was kind of like a secret event. Like, we'd heard stories about you get to the desert and you go out 5 miles and make a left. And you go to another 5 miles, and then you hope you find the rest of the nutcases that are out there doing their thing. And we planned the living heck out of this thing, and Joshua and John and everybody came up with this crazy idea for this giant PVC and parachute tent. Constructing this whole geometry and geodesic dome kind of concept, and it was just we've come up with this crazy idea, and we took this thing out there, and we spent the first several days out there building this tent and creating this community, and it's and the place itself was absolutely amazing. But those of you that have been to Burning Man know that Burning Man is a crucible. And 1995 was one hell of a crucible. And it huge rainstorms that created huge swaths of mud. And out of that trauma, suddenly joy comes out of it. Suddenly we're looking over here and there's a car pulling a couch, and it's just sliding around in the mud, zigzagging as it just being pulled around by a rope. And drum circle comes up, and suddenly there's this writhing in Dante's Inferno type mass of bodies just screwing over there. Is just flesh upon flesh, and one hippie guy in the middle just going and then the windstorm came. This was a windstorm that looked like a nuclear cloud kind of coming at you. And when it hit the camp, it was like in the scene from The Mummy, where it just completely rushes over you. It's like clear sky above, and then suddenly it's just completely white, and the wind was howling and screaming, and we were all off in different parts of the playa, and we all said, "Save the tent." Because this was I think maybe the first geodesic dome that I know of at Burning Man, and these guys came together and built this beautiful thing that I think inspired a lot of people in years to come to do similar shade structures. But that windstorm was going to just completely destroy the heck out of this thing, and we all came up there and ran for this tent, and we were all holding the poles and things like that. And suddenly John and I were sitting here holding on to one pole together, and suddenly Gary Sinise from Forrest Gump came into both of our heads at the same time, and we're going, "Come at me! Come at me! You will not sink this tent!" Just howling at the sky to give me your worst, give me your challenges. I will persevere. I will overcome. This crucible will give me strength, and I will have the power to become a better person. And I think it was a very important moment for me and John, and I think it sort of symbolizes a lot about our lives. You know, we both had problems with drugs back in those days. You know, we both partied a lot, but all that trauma and stuff like that really made us stronger and better people. And I think that crucible really helped us to reach out and have a really wonderful group of friends and people that really cared about us. And I think I really want to celebrate that sometimes trauma changes a person and makes them into a really wonderful human being and helps you to find what's in there and be able to give that gift to the rest of the world. And I can see from all you beautiful people and all these wonderful stories, you know, John had a lot of gifts to give. Thank you, everybody.
My name is Heaven, and other than being your minister today, I was John's friend. Am a Battlestarian, was in spiritual community with him, and he loved mothers, really loved mothers. Good Catholic boy, loved Mary, and loved mothers, and was always so supportive of mothers, was supportive of me as a mother when parenting was doing what parenting can do sometimes, and I was absolutely exhausted, and he saw that I look absolutely exhausted. He said, "What do you need?" I said, I need one good cup of coffee, just by myself, nobody talking to me, nobody needs anything, just one good cup of coffee. So I came over, and he brought me an automatic coffee maker. So he said, "You can have one good cup of coffee whenever you want. Will you share it with me?" And I did. And we went all nerdy Aquarius in the way that we do, because we share that. And truly a beautiful person. So, John, thank you for that wonderful cup of coffee. You deserve the best too. And so I'd like to call Vicki Burns up. She's not here. Okay, well, all right. All right, so we'll hear that later. So, all right. No problem. So that will happen. So we honor you that way as well, Jonathan. And now, I would like to honor you, John, by singing you the lyrics of a poem that you truly loved, that seems to fit this exact moment. If you'd like to read the words to this poem, they are on the back of your program. Do not stand by my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am the thousand winds that blow. I am the diamond glints in snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. As you wake with morning's hush, I am the swift upflinging rush of quiet birds in circling flight. I am the day transcending night. Do not stand by my grave and cry, I am not there. I did not die. Blessings to you, Jonathan. And now, if you look in your program, we will see the prayer, the day prayer. So I would love for you to join us in the day prayer, which is in your program. Can you start us off?
May all of the people be protected from fear and shame and from hunger and destruction. May they rise each morning to the immense sun with joy in their hearts. May they find safety and wisdom in the company of their friends. And may they find peace at the end of the day and find warmth and home and sleep and the restoring night.
And now, John, we have a special honoring just for you.
All uniform personnel, please rise. Present. Arm. Order. Arm.
430-562. This is your final call. Your assignment will be to watch. Attention all units, attention all folk units, attention all EMS professionals and first responders. John Charles Galleni, badge number 130562. This is your final call. Your assignment will be to watch over your family, friends, the EMS community, and mankind. This is the prayer we leave you. May the trail rise to meet you. May the wind be at your back. May the sun shine upon your shoulders. May the snow fall softly around you. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the hollow of his hands. The freedom is now yours to make the final journey home. Know that others have benefited from your service, sacrifice, and your friendship. The tears we shed, our heavy hearts, it is our assurance that God has called you home. John Charles Galleni, these stones are for you. Attention all folk units, attention all EMS professionals and first responders. Godspeed and show yourself.
I got it. Set. Face. Forward. What? All uniform personnel, please be seated.
At John and Heidi's wedding celebration, there was a delicious cake. How could it be anything but delicious if it were John's? And it said, the message on the front of the cake said, "It's better this way." And John, we are better. The world is better from having had you. You will always, always be in our hearts. So, John Charles, we now return your body to the arms of the mother of us all. Your spirit will stay ever in our hearts. What is remembered lives. So, John Charles, go if you must, stay if you will. Hail and farewell.
Stop chasing shadows, just enjoy the ride.